Welcome to the MVI Live Spring Sports Show. I'm Mon Valley Independent Sports Editor Jeremy Salou. To my left, your right, staff writer Jose Negron.
Jeremy,
what's up?
Good to be here.
Some Latino heat on the thing here. Sorry, WrestleMania mode, man.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to just give a brief rundown of some of our baseball, softball, maybe a couple track teams, and see what you can expect as the season grows older. I mean, we are now, about 3 weeks into the season,
Yep.
Finally getting some nice, decent weather. I know we both saw a couple games today. It was nice out. But, yeah, so we'll just get right back into it, and like we never missed a beat.
Yeah. Go right from basketball season straight into baseball, softball. I know Mother Nature has been a little more cooperative this spring compared to last spring.
It's funny because if you ask all the coaches, their biggest thing is they've been outside.
Yeah.
They've got the practice
I think
outside.
at this point last season, we were writing stories about how Mother Nature has affected preparation for the season. But this time we've I think covered maybe 8 games in total. A lot of games, especially this week. So exciting time of year.
Yeah, and it looks like a good week up until the end of the week, so hopefully we'll get some more in, and we'll see all you guys out there, I'm sure. Let's just get right into it. Baseball, I mean, obviously the big thing is the Ringgold Rams coming off a state championship. Not quite in state championship mode yet.
Yeah, it's going to take some time.
They're getting there, and they lost some key pieces, so excuse me. Sorry about that. But, yeah, I mean, and with the WPIAL realignment, I mean, we have a lot of teams, all 4 out of our 5 Class 4A teams are all in one section. But, it's great for us because usually we're covering 2 teams a night now.
Right.
But in Class 4A, we have Ringgold, Bell Vernon area, McKeesport, and Elizabeth Forward. And then a section away from them is York, who, they've gotten off to a pretty good start. And I know Coach Spizak's pretty happy about that.
Right.
Just looking at Ringgold, though, I mean, what have you seen so far?
Well, I have not been able to see him just yet. But I mean, judging from what they have coming back, they still have talent. I mean, when you got a guy like Chase Angotti coming back as one of your top pitchers, Josh Peters, we saw what he meant to that team last season. You got some veteran guys in Bobby Boyer and Kobe Bubash. It's tough to lose the senior leadership that they had with Ryan Varley and Bo Haynes and some of those other guys. But, I mean, they still have weapons. They could still be competitive in that section. I know they picked up their first section loss to Thomas Jefferson, who's another really, really solid team in that section. But that whole group it's loaded. I mean, when they're facing Bell Vernon, they're facing West Mifflin, Thomas Jefferson, even a team like Elizabeth Forward. It's going to be a competitive game every day, and that's going to help them as they move forward.
And in that section, you got South Park, obviously, who I think they just beat Bell Vernon 1-0 in a good game the other night. But you mentioned Thomas Jefferson. I mean, they were kind of the wild card coming in. I mean, dropping down from 5A along with McKeesport. So that section's going to be a grind every game.
Yeah, and you mentioned tough. South Park. I know that they have Elizabeth Forward and they have Ringgold this week. So 2 of our local teams going to get a shot at them. And
actually, I know Ringgold date with Bell Vernon, and that's always going to be a fun game. But the thing with Ringgold is they're taking everybody's best shot, without a doubt. And Coach Roberts knows that. They're going to take the best shot from everybody. Everybody wants to beat the champs, and to be the best, you got to beat the best. So, they're going to have their hands full every time they take the field. But it's all about clicking at the right time, just like they did last year.
Yeah, and I think Coach Roberts and members of that team will tell you that they were battle tested when they got into the playoffs because of the section that they were in, because of the competition that they played throughout the season. So that's only going to make them better, and I'm sure by the end of the season in the WPIAL playoffs and even maybe in the state playoffs, they'll be playing their best baseball.
I've been able to watch Bell Vernon play a couple times now. Tell you what, they're still a very loaded team, obviously led by a group of seniors. Josh Hoffman, obviously, Youngstown State recruit. Cole Naylor, a couple of other guys. But the thing about the Leopards this year, they're very young. I mean, Andrew Sokol, freshman first baseman. I think he pitched the other day, too.
He pitched Saturday against Charleroi.
He's come right out of the gate and made a statement, and they haven't really missed a beat. I think if they shore up some things defensively, I mean, that's always with a young team, mental mistakes.
Right.
But Coach Hicks, he knows he has a lot of talent there. It's just a matter of bringing them along with experience.
Right, and that pitching staff's pretty solid. So you mentioned Sokol, who pitched the other day. Obviously, they have Cole Naylor, they have Eric Pietrantoni, they have Max Godin.
Right.
So they have some capable pitchers, and we know what they can do offensively. That lineup's pretty potent. You got Andrew Sokol at the top of the lineup, who I think had I believe a 3-for-3 day Saturday against Charleroi. Josh Hoffman had a couple hits. Everybody was really contributing. One day after somewhat of a deflating 1-0 loss. I think a 1-run loss can be pretty heartbreaking for a team. So that was a nice bounce back win for them, and they're not gonna. It's not gonna be very easy for them moving forward, as you mentioned. Having Ringgold this week.
Yeah, and on Tuesday you actually went to the Sarah Catholic softball game, but that was kind of a.
It was short. It was a short game.
Yeah, so you got to go over and watch Elizabeth Ford and McKeesport play. Right. I mean, what do you see from those two teams?
Well, I only got to see the last few innings just because, like you mentioned, I was over at Sarah Catholic and they were playing Shadyside Academy. Got a big 15-0 win in 3 innings. Coach Denny Williman's squad got it done pretty quickly. So shot over to McKeesport to see the Tigers and the Warriors go at it, and Elizabeth Ford comes away with an 18-7 victory. 18 hits for Elizabeth Ford in this one, and they actually trailed 6-3 at one point before getting a big 5-run 4th inning. Then they had 2 runs in the 5th, and then 4 each in the 6th and the 7th. But I mean, this team, I talked to Coach Frank Champ afterwards, and they're just clicking offensively. They're doing really good things at the plate. They had, I believe, 4 guys with 3-hit games, including Patrick Minda, who went 4 for 5. They had Nate Homo went 3 for 4, J.C. Schmidt 3 for 4, and Nate Cole went 3 for 5. So the Warrior Bats just got it done, and they did the same thing against Uniontown. They got a nice 8-7 win against them. I believe they had 10 hits in that game, and even stuck with West Mifflin, a tough West Mifflin team, and they unfortunately fell in the bottom of the 7th on a walk-off. But Elizabeth Ford looks pretty solid. I think in the past, they've had their struggles the last few years, but coming into this season, Coach Frank Champ has been, I think he's had a little bit higher expectations compared to the last few years. So and right now they're doing a pretty solid job.
Deservedly so. I mean, and you mentioned struggles over the last few years. Just talking real quick on McKeesport, what you saw from them today. I mean, obviously they scored 7 runs, and I mean that's a lot more than they did in a lot of games last year.
Absolutely,
it just seems like the pitching is going to be key for them. They got to get a couple key guys on the mound.
Yeah, I mean, looks like they used 6 pitchers tonight, and all of them at least gave up a run. They just haven't really had that consistency really for them, and that's what they really need. I mean, they had 8 hits. Seth Alinsky had 2 hits. It's like you said, it's just that pitching needs to come around, and maybe they could make some noise there as well.
And speaking of making noise, I think we found one of the sleepers in 4A in the Yacht Cougars. Yeah. I mean, they got a Division I recruit in Jarrett Bache on the mound, but there's so many other guys that have been contributing right now for Coach Spizak's team. I think I think they have a big matchup. I don't know if it's today. If it was today or if it was Tuesday, they have a big matchup with Greensburg-Salem. Both of them are in the rankings. So I'm pretty sure Bates will be on the mound for that one. But, I mean, he's going to Pitt. He's good at what he does. I know he's had a couple 14, 15 strikeout games already.
Yeah, I mean, those Bache kids are pretty good at baseball, softball. I know his sister Hannah Bache is also at the University of Pittsburgh, and but yeah, I mean, every time Coach Spizak has called in his scores and called in their stats of every game, it's a number of guys contributing offensively. Not even Jarrett Bache pitching wise, but Michael Bell I think recently just had a pretty solid pitching performance as well. So it's everybody contributing, and they're kind of a team similar to EF where they've struggled the last few years, and right now they're off to a pretty solid start, and that's a deserving group there. They work very, very hard at Yawk in baseball and softball to have successful programs.
We're going to jump into Class 3A now, and a team I saw on Tuesday, the Charleroi Cougars. high expectations, deservedly so. I mean, they have a little bit. Little birdie tells me their top pitcher, Keaton Riley, is about to be back. So that's good. He had wrist surgery. Charleroi really took it to Monessen on Tuesday, 16-4 win. We'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about Monessen. But I'll tell you what, Hunter Perry. We have another kid we're going to talk about here shortly, but Hunter Perry hits the ball hard every time he's at the plate. Gino Pellegrini starting to swing of the bat. I know he had his wisdom teeth out, so he missed a little bit of time. But they got those athletes from the football team are there now. Roman Tino, he played a good center, good right field and left field today. I think he actually went to shortstop. Justin Day, champion hockey player for Ringgold. He's playing second base. Zach Usher came out of nowhere too, just like he did in basketball. So Luke Mullis has a really deep team over there. The thing they really need to clean up is the sloppy play on defense. He mentioned that to me on Tuesday. I think they beat Monessen 16-4 and still had 5 errors. So I mean, that's something he wants to clean up. And they're in a tough section. I know they got a couple tough games coming up. So the other team we have over there is South Allegheny, which speaking of McKeesport in 4A, South Allegheny in 3A. Guys, please report your scores to us. We want to cover you guys as much as we can. It kind of goes both ways. I think we're actually hitting a South Allegheny event here shortly. I think it's this week. But going back to Charleroi real quick, I mean, tough section, but I think they're going to be okay once they hit their stride.
Yeah, I think Coach Mullis after Saturday's game against Bell Vernon, I think he said his team lacked a little bit of energy. I think he wanted to see a little bit more from them. I know Zach Usher had an AAU basketball commitment, so he was not in attendance, was not playing. Hunter Perry got the start. David Surzan also pitched a little bit. I think Joey Caruso got some time, Leo Evangelo. So they have some pieces. They have a lot of athletes. You mentioned the football players. You mentioned the hockey guys, hockey guy and Justin Day. So they have the pieces, and they're always a consistent playoff team. But I think they want to be playing, kind of like Ringgold. They want to be playing their quality baseball at the right time and try to get over the hump and make a deep playoff run. But it's not going to be easy when they're in the section that they are.
Jump down to Class A. We're going to skip 2A for now because we have a special interview segment coming up. But looking at Class A, perennial power California, Monessen, in that same section now with the Trojans. Touching base on Monessen real quick. I talked to Coach Matush Tuesday after the game, and he's really disappointed. He talked about how it just seemed like his team didn't even want to be on the field against Charleroi. They coming off a big 16-1 win over Geibel, but like Coach Matush said, how do you get better playing a team like Geibel? I mean, that's why he scheduled the Charleroi game. He's really disappointed. I mean, in his scorebook, 11 errors. Mine, 9. Maybe sometimes we're a little
still
generous.
Not great,
right? Not that that's any better, but he really needs that team to dig deep because there is talent there. It's just it seems like to be a mental thing for the Greyhounds, and and they're in a section which they really can compete for a high playoff spot, even a section title. So
absolutely.
But I know you've seen California play.
Yeah.
You've actually seen them play against Monessen. What do you see from them?
Saw them play against Monessen, and actually saw them get an upset win over Sarah Catholic from Class 2A as well. They, from what I've seen, I only got to see one pitcher throw, and that was Jacob Swartz. We know what he can do. We know that he was their top pitcher last year as well, and he was actually a catcher on the Whippeal Championship team a couple of years ago. Still catches as well. I know Peyton Conti, I believe, actually pitched the last inning of the Monessen game. But I mean, this is another quality team. I believe they're pretty young as well. But they got some guys who can hit. Nate Zemini, who's I believe a senior leader for Coach Lou Pasquale's squad, and he's been their leadoff hitter. And Lou Pasquale said that he expects him to lead the way, and he expects him to produce. And I know against Monessen, he had a couple hits, and. was a big producer for them offensively. They, like I mentioned, Peyton Conti offensively, Jacob Swartz, Malik Ramsey, quality basketball player, also a good football player for them. Stepping out on the baseball diamond. I think he had a hit against Sarah Catholic. I think he had 1 or 2 hits against Sarah Catholic. So they have some athletes, they have some talented kids, and I think they're going to be right there with Monessen for this section title. Going down from 2A.
Perfect. And the thing with going back to Monessen, I think one thing Coach Matush answered for me today is the one thing he was looking for against Schaller was his pitching. Mm-hmm. He started Dwayne Howe, and he was decent over 2 innings. Yeah. He gave up 3 runs, but a lot of those were unearned because of the errors. But that's really what he was searching for, and that's what it's going to come down to for them. I mean, I know Vinny Rome's pitched. They're full of lefties. Yeah. I mean, they got Vinny Rome, Nate Lynch, Dwayne Howe. I know Tyler Swan got in there. I think yesterday he pitched. But he has to find the pitching to go along. A lot of experience back with Zach Evans, either behind the plate or at second base. Marcus Tansmore out there in the infield too. But one of the big things about baseball is, I mean, you've played, I've played. It takes leadership, it takes togetherness, and he kind of called out his seniors. Yeah. Those senior guys need to lead, and according to their head coach, they're just not doing it right now. So they got to piece it together. And they got to get it together because they have talent on that team that can take them somewhere.
Right, and last year, we talked a little bit about it. Monessen was led by 4 seniors who, were incredible athletes, and they were, great kids to cover as well. Corey Fleming, Tyler Catarino, Nick Baker, Antonio Rome. Right. 3 of those 4 are playing baseball in college, and I know Tyler's playing soccer. Right. So, those are 4 great athletes who, I'm sure were great role models for their teammates as well. And I'm sure Billy Matush wants to see, the same leadership from this this year's group.
Moving on to Class 2A, we'll go to my alma mater real quick. Okay. The Fraser Commodores are down in 2A, and new head coach Dan Kupitz, a baseball guy. Yeah, definitely a baseball junkie. Everything revolves around baseball. I watched them actually play at Monessen. They came away with a win. Everything with them starts with Shane McGavitt, third base pitcher. The Commodores, they're kind of an X factor in their section. They're still pretty young too, and it seems like that's kind of a theme for a lot of our teams, the youth this year. But the thing is, with the evolution of travel ball and everything, the talent coming up into high school is a lot younger. Yeah. It pushes teams with senior leadership that, they got to do their thing or their spot's going to be gone. Right. But I know Coach Coop's he's going to play his best players. And, they got a couple good ones. Chase Hazelbaker, I watched him pitch a little bit, a sophomore. He did a great job for them, and he's literally plays everywhere for Coach Kupitz. But Trevor Hayes, he pitched a great game the other day, and they got a big win. I'm sorry, it scratches my mind, but I know they did get a big win because Coach Coop called us. But yeah, I mean, they're going to be an X factor in that section. But anytime you're playing with the likes of Brownsville, they're a perennial program. So I'm interested to see what they do this year. Yeah,
absolutely. And in talking to him, it seems like he's really excited to be back on the baseball field. I know it's been quite some time since he was coaching at the high school level. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if your Commodores can make some noise in 2A.
I did get the hat though. I got the hat, and this ain't the hat, but I got a hat. I'm always proud to support. And last but not least, Sarah Catholic. I saw them on Monday against Seton LaSalle, another highly ranked team. 2 Division I recruits, Drew Lafferty from Seton LaSalle on the mound against our buddy Mark Black. Yep. And Black got the best of him with a 3-run homer. That was all the runs they needed because Alex Glumac on the mound was just unbelievable for the Eagles. Coach Brian Zarenda, it's never rebuild with them. It's always just reload. Right. A lot of young talent. Again, we talked about only a couple seniors, but the Eagles, I know high expectations. They had the loss to California, but Coach Zarenda put that on him. Didn't think they were aggressive enough on the bases and everything. So they didn't really force California to make all that many tough plays. So I know he would like another shot at them, but he won't get it this season.
Right.
But the Eagles are just they're high powered, top to bottom. Everybody can hit. Couple great pitchers this year.
Yeah. Fortunately, I got to kind of follow them through their non-section play and see how this team would develop early on in the season. I know early on it's really hard to kind of get a grasp of how a team's going to play. As the season progresses, it's a long year, but we kind of talked about it. So far for Sarah Catholic, it's really started with the pitching.
Right.
And we talked about, kind of comparing their pitching staff this year to the pitching staff they had last year with 3 seniors and Nate Pianka and then Zach and Ben Bowen.
Right.
Those are 3 guys who throw hard, can overpower, hitters. Alex Glumack and Logan Exler,
they're pitchers.
They're pitchers. They don't really rely on throwing the heat. They rely on their stuff. Logan Exler's curveball is Coach Zarenda likes to call it his bread and butter.
Yeah.
When that's working, Logan can be absolutely dominant, and when it's not, he has tendency to struggle a bit. And we saw Alex, kind of do the same thing and have success. And this is a young group compared to some of the previous years. I know they only have 1 senior starter in Pat Brennan.
Right.
Even Mark Black, like you mentioned, of course, a St. John's recruit. Was top 5 in the WIPUL in pretty much every offensive category last season as a sophomore. He's only a junior, so a ton of talent there for Sarah. As the season goes on, I think they're only going to get better with the more experience they get.
I would be surprised if Mark Black makes it to St. John's.
I would too. I think we've had some discussions internally, yes. and I know I've talked to Brian Zarenda, and he said that he's without question. Brian Zarenda has been doing this for a long time. I think over 2 decades at the helm at Sarah Catholic, and he says that Mark Black's the best baseball player he's ever coached, and he's coached a lot of really talented players.
Yes.
And Mark's just, and I think the thing about him too is he's a catcher. You don't see a lot of catchers who can do everything, and Coach has said that he's his fastest player too. He can steal bases, he can hit for power, he can hit it into the gaps. Everything he hits is hard. He has a great arm, he's a great fielder. I think the pitchers can say that they appreciate having him back there to rely on as well. So they're a team that's only going to get better as the year goes on, and we're excited to see where they go.
And I tell you what, he hit that 3-run homer yesterday, and it sounded like thunder coming off the bat. And he's a smart baseball player. He knew he was going up against a fastball pitcher. He looking first pitch fastball, and he just crushed it to dead center field.
And I think early on this season, so far, he's struck out a little bit more than he did last year. I think he only struck out a handful of times last year, but I covered the last game that I covered them in. I could see him take batting practice, and there was a little bit of anger, I think, in those practice swings, and if he gets a hold of one, he's going to drive it a long way.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good season for them. And I know you were there last week, and you got to not sit down, but you got to talk to both Coach Zarenda and Coach Mark Black. So, I think we can go right into that, and we'll be right back.
All right. All right, I'm here with Sarah Catholic head coach Brian Zarenda. Coach, another big win today, 4-2 against Freeport, out to a 5-1 start to the season. I know you guys have had a bit of struggles offensively and things like that, but where do you see the team right now? How are you liking things right now?
I love our pitching staff. I think our pitchers have had an outstanding season so far. We're averaging just giving up a little over 1 run a game in our 6 games, but always room for improvement, especially offensively.
Right. And you mentioned the pitching staff. Obviously, Logan Exler and Alex Glumack both get time today. Alex 6 innings. Kind of struggled a little bit in that 7th, but where do you see the pitching staff? What do you like about the pitching staff? You got those 2 guys. You also got some other capable pitchers and Dom DeMoss and some other guys, but what do you think of the pitching staff so far?
Well, pitchers have been throwing strikes first and foremost. They've been very efficient, averaging less than 15 pitches per inning, which is what we preach to the kids. Making the other teams earn it, basically changing speeds on the pitches, and when base runners are on, just mixing up their timing to the plate. So everything that we've preached them they've kind of worked at, and you know, they've exhibited this year for us.
Yeah. A young team. I know you only have one senior starter in Pat Brennan. Do you see the guys getting better with every game? I mean, have you seen improvement within each game that you've played so far?
Absolutely, especially after the California game where you know, we just couldn't get the offense going. We didn't play real aggressive. The last 2 games, I think, have been a bit of an improvement offensively for us. But then once again, here today, we left 10 guys on base. So something we definitely need to have a different approach at the plate and with situational hitting. We'll work on that in the next 3 days in practice before we go up to Neshannock on Friday.
Wanted to talk about Mark a little bit. I mean, you've mentioned he's, you know, one of the best players that you've coached, and you know, you've been doing this for a long time.
Sure.
You know, what makes him so special? I mean, he's you don't really see a catcher who can hit for as much power as him, who can hit into the gaps. I mean, he's just an all-around ball player.
Mark's a special player. He's a 5-tool athlete. He's the fastest runner on our team. He hits for average. He hits for power. He has the arm strength of a professional catcher. His work ethic, though, sets him aside from everybody else. He leaves practice here. He goes, lifts weights. He does yoga. He'll go from yoga, and then he'll take, you know, more batting practice privately in the evening. So, and he's a 4.0 student at Sarah. He's a top shelf kid all around. So he's without a doubt one of the best athletes that I've coached in my 22 years at Sarah.
Right. You guys have gotten a lot of games in. I know a lot of teams haven't been able to play as many as you guys have, but a lot of non-section teams. Freeport, obviously a Class 3A squad. These non-section games, how do you think that's going to help, you know, these guys going in?
You know what? All 6 of our section games so far have been against playoff teams from 2018, and I always want to have a very competitive non-section schedule, win, lose, or otherwise. I think it prepares you for your section season. So, you know, we're very blessed to have Boston Field here. Elizabeth Forward lets us use the field and prepare the field. It's not a union field where I'm not allowed to touch the field like in McKeesport, but you know, we're blessed to have it. We're blessed to have Bill Cleary as an athletic director who allows me the products to put on the field to dry it out, and I think that gives us a very big advantage. We've played 6 non-section games plus 2 scrimmages plus 2 inter-squad games that we've played. So you know, it puts us ahead of the competition, I feel.
Right. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we look forward to covering you guys the rest of the season.
Come on, get it, Mark! Go, Mark! Cut it!
All right, I'm here with Sarah Catholic junior catcher Mark Black. Mark, nice win today against Freeport, 4-2. You know, through the first 6 games or so, you guys are 5-1. You know, how do you feel about the team right now and how you guys are gelling at this point in time?
I mean, right now, I think we're in good shape to start section play. Just continue to improve offense through practice, and I think we'll be fine.
Right.
Pitching staff's doing great so far.
And going off that, I mean, you guys have some flamethrowers in Logan Exler, Alex Glumac, other guys who are capable of pitching, Dom DeMoss. As the catcher, I mean, you know, how much pride do you have in catching for these guys and working with these guys day in, day out?
Obviously, our pitching staff's a lot younger than it was last year, but we're doing great so far. I mean, I think like 4 runs maybe through 6 games, doing great. So keep it up. I'm loving how they're coming along so far.
Yeah. You know, being that they're so young, does that kind of, you know, do you take more responsibility as the catcher to work with these guys to help them, you know, go into every matchup and just prepare and things like that?
Yeah, definitely through practice and stuff. I talk them through, like, how we're coming along, what looks good so far, and then pre-game, just making sure they're confident, ready to go. So,
hitting wise, I mean, we know how good you are at the plate. You know, everything you hit, even if it's just a single, a ground ball single, is hard. You know, how do you feel about your offensive game right now? And what are some things that you think you can improve on moving forward?
Right now, I feel pretty good offensively. Just got to be a little bit more aggressive, but I feel confident with my swing. Just look up there, go up there, look to hit it.
This non-section schedule, I know you guys play, you know, obviously Freeport is a Class 3A team. How do you think playing against some of these teams, you got Neshannock on Friday as well, how do you think playing against these teams is going to help you guys going into section play?
I think these games really help us going into section play, just kind of make sure everything's clicking, because section play is really what matters for playoffs.
Right.
So,
right. I know, you know, in that 7th inning today, a couple miscues and things like that, but, you know, as a junior, as one of the guys who, you know, is the leader on this team, you know, is there anything in particular that you kind of tell the guys to say, you know, hey, listen, you know, we'll get this together?
I mean, I just tell them that I know I'm confident in them and that we can get it done. We always are able to. So
right, yeah. Gotcha. All right, we will send it back to you guys. All right, and there you go. Great, always great to talk to Coach Zarenda and to talk to Mark. I'm sure he's going to get a lot of media attention in the future as a ball player. So we're happy to
help him out.
Yeah, we're happy to give him a little bit of experience before he goes any further. But I got to do those interviews last week after a big win against Freeport, who is a Class 3A team, and Coach and all his players appreciate having a tough non-section schedule. We kind of talked a little bit there in that piece, but always great to talk to those guys. They're big baseball guys. I think Mark plays all year long. So it's pretty cool to be able to talk to a kid who's so well rounded and such a humble kid, and to be able to talk to a veteran coach like Brian Zarenda, who's really become a legend, in WPIAL baseball. So always a pleasure to do that.
Okay, well, let's jump into softball. I mean, I know we have another special interview coming up that I got to participate in. Let's start in Class A. A couple teams that are, going to go through their struggles. First off, the Monessen Greyhounds were a game away from playing for a state title this year. Mm-hmm. Lost, I think, 4 or 5 big-time contributing seniors, starting with Dana Vatakis in the circle. New coach, Bo Teets submitted his resignation. Carly Wickstrom, former Cal U and Seton Hill softball player, now at the helm. I watched them against Fraser. It was a pretty quick game, but talking to her, though, I mean, it was a Fraser 20-0 win. Yeah. But Monessen has some pieces, very young, very inexperienced, and I think Coach Wickstrom has the right attitude going in. They know they're going to take their lumps. They're preparing for section play, which their section besides West Green is Jeff Morgan and Mapletown they're okay, but Monessen can make some noise. I know they played Brownsville close on Tuesday, but Hannah Yordy, it's going to start with her in the mound. She burst onto the scene as a freshman last year. She's a travel ball player. I know they got Gabby Simpson's back now, moving to shortstop. Maddie Telegraphis provides the power. She's in center field. But the Greyhounds, they know they're going to struggle a little bit, but Coach Wickstrom wants to see them get game experience. They have a lot of new players, and he wants to see them just improve every game along the line.
Yeah, I think it's a new era really for Monessen softball. When you lose an ace like Dana Vatakis, who's now at Robert Morris, it's really a whole new start. And you mentioned some of the other seniors. That includes Destiny Habeck and some of the other girls that graduated. But Hannah Yordy, 11 strikeouts against Brownsville. I think that's a positive and something moving in the right direction for Monessen. I think they had 10 hits in that loss, but it's not going to be easy. It's never easy when you're kind of reloading, and I guess it's a rebuild, in a sense, and you kind of expect it. I mean, you expect when your seniors are going to be leaving you, when it's time to kind of get things going and kind of moving in a new direction. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll be very long until we see, you know, Monessen kind of get back to a point where they can, you know, be in the playoffs and have some success. But you know, definitely it's going to take some time.
Well, and the most important thing in any small school like Monessen is you have to get your best athletes out there. And that's what they have now. They got all their best athletes are now on the softball team. So just a matter of them growing as softball players. I think they'll be okay. You know, the other team in that section with Monessen, it's, you know, taking their lumps too, is California. They lost their team MVP, Marley Evans, from last year, who hit over, you know, near 500, I think 450 something. You know, they lost that. You know, they have young pitchers, but it's another situation similar to Monessen. You know, they're young. Yep. There's some talent there, but it's young. It's not quite ready yet. You know, so they played Charleroi. They struggled a little bit against the Cougars. You know, but Michaela Boda, she wasn't originally on the roster. She was running track, and I think she's actually doing both now. So her coming back to the team is really going to help them. Yeah, absolutely. And they just made the playoffs, I think, a few seasons ago, right. and I think got a playoff win, if I'm not mistaken. They did. So yeah, it's you know, they're kind of a team every year that they have their struggles, but they also have little glimpses of, you know, of positivity and some success. So they're kind of, I think, probably, like you mentioned, same boat as the Greyhounds. We're going to leapfrog 2A and jump into 3A and just mention South Allegheny. You know, one of the top teams in the WPIAL right now. I know they got the Kirkwood girls there. They're doing big things. I know there's some other girls, but this is another situation. We got to get the scores reported to us. Right. I mean, it would help greatly. We are covering a game this week. I think Zach Ziegler's slated to go to one of their games, or maybe it's Jeremy Tepper. I'm not sure. But I think that game is Friday. We're going to be there. But yeah, we got to get that relationship formed. I mean, South Allegheny, I think they're off to a 9-0 start. One of the top teams in AAA, which I believe is wide open though. So we're interested to see how the Gladiators do. You know, hopefully we start to get their scores reported in, and or at least a Game Changer updated. You know, that always helps. Yeah. Thank you all the teams out there that use Game Changer. It makes our life very easy. Yeah, and let's just go straight into 4A. Yeah, ton of teams there. You know, I know we have Bell Vernon, Reingold, Elizabeth Ford, and McKeesport. Much like baseball. All in the same section. All in the same section. Good for us. Obviously, that's good for us in the sense that, you know, we can cover them when, you know, they're playing in big games, but we can also cover them when they're playing each other. Right. So, and that's always exciting to see our local teams go head-to-head. But in this section, I mean, you kind of look at some of these teams. I mean, Bell Vernon, for so long, absolutely dominant with Bailey Partial on the mound. Of course, now she is at Penn State, and she's still, you know, continuing that success. Always great to see her, you know, represent the Valley, and I think she's around the top 25 in strikeouts in the NCAA. So, congratulations to Bailey, and you know, congratulations to Dana Vitagas as well, who we mentioned before, for having the success that you guys have had in college. But Bell Vernon, you know, they're kind of, I wouldn't say reloading, because they really have a lot of girls back. But I mean, when you're trying to replace a pitcher like Bailey, it's going to be difficult. I know Sophia Godzak and Vanessa Porter both got some time on the mound. They've looked pretty solid. They do have a 1-2 punch now on the mound, which they need this year. I mean, I watched Bell Vernon a couple times now against McKeesport, against Ringgold. You know what they're doing this year that they didn't do much of last year? Hitting the ball. Yeah, that's a good start to putting runs on the board. I know Coach Rodriguez, you know, he's kind of flabbergasted by it. He's enjoying it though. I don't think they had more than 10 hits a lot last year, but this year it's been different. More than a few times. Yeah. You mentioned Sophie Godzak on the mound and at the plate. I mean, she is just crushing balls. She hit the famous Dilly bar sign the other day. I saw a post on Facebook. So the whole team got some Dilly bars. The thing that's really stood out for me, and somebody making a bid for our breakthrough player of the year, is freshman Ashley Joel at shortstop. Yeah, this is the first time she's ever played shortstop. She's come up huge. She's a third baseman and a catcher. Yeah, you know, great defensive plays by her, and I know she's been really big at the plate as well for them. You saw a team who we kind of plugged as perennial, or not perennial, but kind of going into this season as the WPIAL favorites in the Elizabeth Ford Warriors. Yeah, I've covered their first 3 section games. First game against Ringgold, and then they had
two of their biggest section games right out of the gate, against West Mifflin and against Thomas Jefferson. Somewhat closer, I believe 5-2 victory over West Mifflin last week, and then earlier this week, I think a statement win. I think so. That's I think a good way to put it. 11-1 over Thomas Jefferson. Kaylee Larsenese was brilliant. I think she had one unearned run, one hit, struck out 11. And I mean, they're a young team too. That's what's special about it.
And you mentioned a statement win. I don't necessarily think it's a statement and win. They put up 11 runs, 10 run them, and Mercy ruled them. I think it was a statement win for Larsenese.
Yeah.
I know she struggled a little bit early on, but I think, as the weather's getting warmer, she's loosening up that shoulder a little bit.
Yeah.
She really made a statement yesterday that she's still one of the top pitchers in the section.
And a thing I mentioned in my story, the other day covering the game, is her outing actually started with a 4-pitch walk.
Right. And
2 of the pitches were actually illegal pitches that were called by the umpire in the field. And she didn't let it phase her. I think at one point she struck out 9 of 10 batters that she faced. I mean, she was just on a tear. And offensively, they gave her enough support. I mean, they just 1 through 9, they have girls who can hit. Jordan Paneri's been huge the last few games. She had a 4-for-4 performance against West Mifflin. Breester Sevick drove in 4. They have veteran leadership from a Colgate recruit and Taylor Ludwig.
Right.
So just a ton of talent here, and they're a team that went to the Whitfield Championship last year, and in a sense really had it in the bag. Had a lead late and let it slip away against Bell Vernon. And I know they're hungry to get back there and try to make some noise in the Whitfield playoffs and bring home the Whitfield title.
And while Bell Vernon may be a little down this year, that there's a game on Thursday or Friday. And I'm not sure right off the head when it is. It's EF goes to Bell Vernon.
I believe it's Friday. I want to say it's Friday.
I think that's a big game on EF's calendar, even though they know that Bell Vernon's not the same team. Obviously, that number 22 is not in the circle, but Jordan French is still at Bell Vernon. Mackenzie Sokol, who had the big hit in the championship game, still there. There's like a little block there, and for them, I think to really not kind of go on cruise control because they're going to come out intense in every game, but I think that's the hurdle they know they need to get past before they even start thinking playoffs, start thinking section title. I think getting over that hump will do them some good.
Absolutely. And going off that, Coach Rutherford actually said after the Thomas Jefferson win, he thought it was a statement win in the sense that, they're proving that they're there, that they're one of the favorites. And we kind of knew that coming in, but they also, he put emphasis on it. And I know Taylor Ludwig, talking to her after the West Mifflin game, they put emphasis on the fact that they're not going to, overlook anyone. They're not going to overlook McKeesport, who they play, I believe, I believe tonight or tomorrow. They're not going to overlook any opponent that they have in this section, because they know that, regardless of what your record is in the game of softball, a game of baseball, anything can happen on a given day.
Right. And you mentioned McKeesport, and we'll get into them and Ringgold a little bit. Those two teams, especially, their matchups against each other are going to be huge.
Yeah.
Because those two are probably going to battle for a final playoff spot.
I believe it's going to come between those two.
And I'll tell you what, I was really impressed. I watched the Bell Vernon McKeesport game. McKeesport, same boat. Young team, young talent, young pitcher, but Jala Bray's still there. Is a big bat. But they hit the ball. They hit Bell Vernon around a little bit. I mean, Bell Vernon just they hit their pitcher around. They scored some more runs, but McKeesport was sound defensively. They didn't make too many mistakes, and they hit the ball around the yard. So and they're another team like I mentioned Ringgold. Ringgold, they hit the ball. It's just their defense and their pitching needs to get a little bit more better for them to come out of this section and make a playoff.
I think if I were to make a prediction, I think EF, Thomas Jefferson, and West Mifflin are the top 3 teams.
Right.
I think Bell Vernon, Ringgold, and McKeesport, those are the 3 teams that are going to battle for that final playoff spot. Right. And every matchup against each other is going to be huge. And I know you covered the Bell Vernon and McKeesport game, like you mentioned,
the Bell Vernon Ringgold game. And Bell Vernon right now, they're 2-0 against them teams.
Right.
So Bell Vernon's sitting pretty, and Coach Rodriguez knew that. He said, we need to be better than 3 teams. And we need to take care of Ringgold, take care of McKeesport, take care of Carrick, maybe steal a game here and there, and they're going to be satisfied with such a young team. But, talking about Ringgold, I mean, they got some girls that could hit. I know Ashley Salumba is really taking it. Nia Adams is, she goes all out in everything she does. But they need to find a pitcher behind Jillian Shearer. I know she wasn't quite as healthy early on. She doesn't throw hard, but she spins it. She hits her spots. She baffled Bell Vernon there for a little bit until the third time through the lineup.
Yeah, and that's what Greg Adams said. After Jillian, they don't have a lot of depth pitching wise, and that's something that's hurt them so far this season. And if they can't find anybody else, because I think Greg actually pointed out too that Jillian's had some shoulder issues. So, when you have a pitcher who's had some injury issues in the past, you need to have girls behind her that can contribute and can throw quality innings. And so far, they really haven't found that.
And the only thing missing from that section is Yawk.
Yeah.
The last couple of years they were in there with that group. Now they're in section 1. The other groups are in, I think, section 3. But Yawk, I mean, again, it's never a rebuild. They're just they're reloaded up. Dutch Harvey, playing that tough schedule. I know they beat Uniontown 1-0. I know Uniontown's a team that's on the way up.
They played
Latrobe 1-0 in extra innings. The Cougars are solid again, led by Kiera Waywood on the mound.
And they played a really tough schedule, like Elizabeth Forward in Florida, during their annual trip, down there. So you can never count Dutch Harvey and his team out. He always has a talented group. He's a very, very good coach, and they always have success. And obviously state championship just a few years ago. And Kiera Waywood, with her on the mound, you can't count them out at all. I mean, she's a Cal U recruit. So I believe she had a pretty solid shutout earlier this week, and as the season goes on, and I think they have some pretty good depth behind her. I believe they have a couple freshmen that Coach Harvey was pretty high on. So they might even give them some starts against some of the lower teams in their section, just to save Kiera a little bit for the end of the season.
The biggest thing is they just have to be consistent.
It
reminds me a lot of Bell Vernon in the last couple years. Get the 2-3 runs, and Waywood's going to keep you in the game for sure.
Absolutely.
Jumping down to section or Class 2A, one of the new teams in 2A is the Charleroi Cougars. I got to watch them twice now, I believe. Kylie Quigley on the mound, 2 no-hitters this year. Some experience coming back. Katie Reed, who I just found out is actually a cousin of mine. I have a lot of those.
You have a lot of those.
But Taylor Boyd's back. Faith Martin has been really good for them early on. Sarah Kondratic at second base. I know Sam Mavilla played her first game at catcher in the game I was at. Coach Tillman seems like he's building up at the right time. Obviously, they're going to ride Quigley throughout the year. When they play the more experienced teams, like some of the teams in this section, he knows he's going to take his lumps. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Charleroi jump into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they're a team that can steal a few games from you. I think they're one of those teams that if a team that's undefeated or one of the higher teams in those section in that section, come in and say, this is going to just be an easy win.
Right.
Sometimes
not anymore.
Sometimes those
last
teams
few
do that.
years it was.
Sometimes those better teams will go into a game, think that they have it, and struggle a little bit. And I think Charleroi is one of those teams that you just can't overlook.
Right.
No matter what. So they have some pieces offensively, and I think Kylie Quigley's a pitcher that's only going to get better the more innings that she throws.
Right. They had a big game against Bentworth. And this Friday they get Fraser coming to town.
Yeah.
So
they're going to be challenged.
Before we talk about Fraser, we're going to get into Sarah Catholic, who you saw on Tuesday.
Yeah, like we mentioned a little before.
Yeah. Loaded up, a lot of offense, great defense. All starts with Nina Grandy there. But you got Lizzie and Lexi Fight, Maddie Carr, Quattrone still there. I mean, a lot of powerful hitters through that lineup. It's not a lineup you want to go through if you're in the circle.
No, it's against Shady Side Academy, like I mentioned, 15-0. They had 14 hits. Nina Grandy went 4 for 4. Drove in 2 runs. Natalie Tom, one of their catcher, who Denny Willemans really raved about. She went 2 for 2 with 4 RBIs. Caitlin Kennard, who actually pitched and only gave up 2 hits in 3 innings, a transfer from Franklin Regional. She drove in 3 runs. She had a bases loaded, I believe, triple to kind of start off the scoring for them. Maddie Carr drove in 3 runs. So, I mean, they have a ton of talent. I know that they're missing their pitcher from last year, Rebecca Pius, who is, I believe, at Messiah College now pitching, and she was a great player for them last season. But I mean, they're stacked, and this is their second straight game. I know they had a 15-4 win over Northgate on Monday. Second straight win, second straight big victory, lopsided win. So, they're a team that I think will only get better as the year goes on. But Denny Willeman even said before the year started that this is probably the best offensive team he's had, and they can steal bases, they can play good defense, they can pitch, they can do it all.
You mentioned lopsided wins, and that's going to bring us into Fraser alma mater again. Last 3 games for the Commodores, probably not quite what Coach Hartman wants, just because he's a competitive guy. He wants competitive games, but the Commodores have outscored their last 4 opponents 58-0.
Yeah.
2 20-0 wins over Monessen and Beth Center. I don't
15-0.
I don't know who that was over.
15-0.
3-0 over. I don't know. They're just blowing everybody out. They're not giving up runs. And I'll tell you what, they lost 3/4 of their infield.
Yeah.
They lost the Mostowskis, and they lost Kayla Matway, short second and first baseman. But I'll tell you what, Logan Hartman at catcher, Julianne Johnson, or Logan Hartman at pitcher. Julianne Johnson at catcher, and Kat Barch is there at third base. I mean, probably the best third baseman in girls softball I've seen in a long. I've never, honestly, Kat, I hope I don't jinx you. I've never seen her make an error.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been covering them now for 3 years. This group is only juniors.
If it happens, she's gonna watch this.
I bought hoagies off of her too. Her mom's probably gonna double charge me or something. But they're. I know producer extraordinary Chad Corrado was out there with me the one day, got some footage of a Kat Barch home run. When I actually told him, I said, go ahead and record this at bat. Yeah. So it was pretty interesting. He actually caught the ball. He caught the home run.
And he gave it to her mom, right?
And gave it to her mom. But I'll tell you what, they're solid. And I'll tell you, the girl who's really coming around for them is Savannah Berklovich.
Yeah. She's been big power hitter for them as well.
Yeah. I mean, she's hitting power. She's hitting, she's able to bunt and beat it out. I mean, she's hitting the gaps. And she's, one thing that they may not have had in the last few years is speed.
Yeah.
And Coach Hartman, longtime baseball guy, now longtime softball guy, small ball guy. He loves to get on the bases. He loves to run. He likes to put pressure on defenses. And, as well as Logan Hartman's doing in the circle, batting too. I mean, she's batting lead off. I know the game that I was against Monessen, I think she was 3 for 4 with, she popped out once and she wasn't very happy, but, they lost a lot of their power when those 3 left, when Matt Way and the Mostowskis left, but they're finding it and it's coming around. I know Emmy Curcio hitting the ball out of the ballpark.
And Riley Evans has been pretty solid.
She's playing shortstop now. Emmy Curcio moved to second, and Berklovich is playing first base. And they're getting contributions from the outfield. Mackenzie Kelly, Haley Summers. They're really doing a great job all around, and I know Coach Hartman's ecstatic.
Right, and you even mentioned, obviously we know what Berklovich has done. We know what Emmy Curcio does, Logan Hartman, Kat Barch, but the bottom of that lineup has been even solid. I mean, you mentioned Kelly, even Megan Salashi is, a girl who's been around the last few years and been pretty, productive for them as well.
And she's a little spark plug because she's at that. Her job is to turn that order around and get back to the top, and she'll lay down a slat bunt and she'll do a little push bunt, but she'll also smack one down the left field line from that left-handed batter's box, and she's running.
Right, and it's important to have quality at bats at the bottom of the lineup, because you know they're going to pitch to you. You know that they don't want to, throw to Logan Hartman.
Right.
You know, they don't want to, throw to Savannah Berklovich or, Emmy Curcio at the top. So, it's big to be able to have production at the bottom.
Right. But, I mentioned that we were out there with Chad, and I got a chance to talk to Logan Hartman in that game against Monessen. She missed a perfect game by 1 out.
Right.
Hannah Yorty came out and slapped one down the left field line, although the game did end on that play because Gabby Simpson got thrown out at third base. But, with all that disappointment, she's still, she's such a down-to-earth kid, and she wanted to win for her team.
Right.
That's what was most important. But I got to talk to her. I talked to Barch, who had the big home run. Great defensive play on a bunt when they tried to lay down a bunt to stop the perfect game. And of course, I talked to Coach Hartman, a little bit about the dynamic between, father, daughter, mothers in the coaching box too, in the dugout. So, we had a good conversation. So we'll take a look at that and we'll come right back. And through the wonders of technology, here I am in Perryopolis, Pennsylvania. Just watched the Fraser softball team beat Carmichael's 3-0. I'm joined by Catherine Barch, third baseman, pitcher Logan Hartman. Logan, you just missed a perfect game. 2 outs in the 7th inning. Just take me through what it's like pitching a game like that.
It was a really good game for me. I was really on today, and hard work pays off, and I'm really excited that I was able to go out and have the game that I did have, and my team to back me up as well.
How difficult is it to kind of get loose when the weather's a little cold, a little chilly? I mean, obviously you're nice and loose now with the ice all over your arm, but just what's it like preparing for a game when the weather's not quite yet 75 degrees and sunny?
Yeah, it is tough. My warm-up's really intense. I do warm up with a bunch of things on and take every single pitch super seriously, because I know when I go out there my hand's going to freeze and all that. But at the end of the day, it does end up working out with my tough warm-up, so I'm able to figure it out.
Obviously you got two runs in the first inning. It was a good start. Then the offense kind of lawed off until this one over here pokes a home run to center field. Does it kind of make you relax a little bit knowing you have a 3-run lead instead of a 2-run lead going into that last inning?
Yes, a lot. I do trust my offense, and I'm glad that she was able to get that extra run in the end.
All right, Kat, so take me through that at bat. What did you see on the pitch from Kylie, and take me through the swing?
So this whole season, I've been struggling with my swing from the beginning, but luckily Donnie's helped me a lot this season, and we're going straight back to basics like I did last year. And I don't know, the bat before it, when I struck out on a change, and then I don't know, I just got really loose this at bat, and it was pretty much a meatball right down the middle, and I just swung, like full force swung at it, hoping for the best, and I got what I wanted.
And I will say, I'm the only coaches with a Whitfield baseball and softball championship.
Oh, that's me.
Sure can.
You want it for? Defensively, you had to make a play in the bottom of the 6th inning where they laid down the bunt to try to get a runner on and get that first hit. How difficult is it defensively, to try and stay in the flow of the game when she's over here mowing down 17 batters?
It is really hard. We all just start to get laid back in the infield, and then you never know what's going to happen with the batter. With the bloop where you almost had the perfect game, or the bunt. But as Donnie always says, I just have to read, and when her hands start going, I just run as fast as I can to the ball and hope I get her out before she makes it.
Sounds like Coach Hartman's a little intense.
She is. Every single practice, game, I run those plays like a routine, and now it's just basics for me.
Logan, just take us through the relationship a little bit. I know we've talked about this before. What your dad's calling the pitches. He kind of said he eased off a little bit in the last at bat. But what's it just like having him, be your coach and watch you grow up, playing the sport?
We've worked together since I was 5 years old, pitching in the backyard, and we really mesh really well. He gets me, I get him, and outcomes like 17 strikeouts is what we work together for. So I'm really lucky to have a coach like him that's also my father and best friend. So.
And is that the career high strikeouts? Did we find out?
Yes, I think so.
just last but not least, the biggest thing, I want you both to take an answer to this one. You guys have been in the Whitfield Championship the last 2 seasons. Obviously, you won 2 years ago. You lost last year. I talked to your dad about it a little bit. You lost 3/4 of your infield. Just take us through the process of you being the only returning infielder and you trusting your defense behind you with 3 new girls back there.
Practice, practice, practice. I mean, we try everyone in the infield, try to figure it out, but I do trust them as much as they are like rookies. I do trust them a lot because they do work for it. They've worked for their positions, and you know, you have to trust your defense at the end of the day, and they have not done me dirty. So.
And Kat, you're the lone returning infielder. How much do you take on a leadership role at this point?
I try my best to take on a leadership role, but we all kind of step up to each other, and if someone's down, we all pick each other up, and we all just practice as hard as we can to be where we're at. And
just the last thing, I think I talked to you about it too just a couple minutes ago for the paper, but how important is it getting this win coming off a tough loss to a tough Chartiers Houston team in a game where I know a lot of you girls probably feel like you should have won that game, but how important is it to come back and get a win over a tough Carmichael's team?
It was really big. This was one of our games that we knew we had to win to keep going on with the season and hopefully best to have our section title.
Logan, you want to go with that?
Again, about the target thing, we have a huge target on our back just because we've been to Whitfield the past 2 years, and I think that beating Carmichael's today to get back on our streak of winning was really big as well, because just put that Chartiers Houston game behind and act like nothing happened and just keep on mowing.
All right, ladies, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Congratulations on a good win.
Hey, let's go, Gina!
All right, we're back with Frazier's head softball coach, Dawn Hartman. Coach, congratulations on a big win today over Carmichael's. As a coach, watching your daughter out there on the mound, what do you think when you see that little blooper over second base to end the perfect game?
You know, it's once again, you don't talk about those things in a dugout. Right. No one says a word, and I'm just going through my spray chart and thinking, oh boy, here we go. And then you get down to that situation where you're down to 1 pitch, and how many times, unfortunately, have we seen
right
you
through
lose
the
a no-hitter or a perfect game for love of the game, but didn't work out today. But we got the win, and that's what's most important. You know, hopefully maybe she'll get herself in a situation to do that again. She's young yet, but so I was proud of her. But you know, again, the father in me is a little heartbroken, but it happens.
Right. I talked to Logan and Kat a little bit about it. You guys had a tough loss on Saturday to a very good Chartiers Houston team. Carmichael's, you know, they're a perennial powerhouse, like you said, Final Four in Class A last year. How important was getting this win today?
More than they realize. You know, we started off with Bentworth, who has a very good team, going into Chartiers Houston, which was just a heartbreaker. You know, our kids, you know, took that loss very tough. It could have went either way. And we spoke yesterday at practice about rebounding and flushing and moving forward and realizing how good this team is, that they've been in the Final Four the last 2 years. I was happy the girls came in focused, and, you know, Logan did a job on the mound. We got a couple runs early, and, you know, we're able to get out of here with a win and kind of get back on track, so to speak.
Another proud father moment, you know, set a career high in strikeouts with 17. But one of the things you emphasize is the defense. And we talk about how sometimes when your pitcher's cruising like that, your defense can get in a lull, especially with 3 out of 4 new infielders.
Yeah, that's always a fear of ours. When Logan has a game like that we're sitting back and pretty much getting cold. But we really work on defense every single day. You know, all the years I coached baseball, I don't think I worked on defense as much as I do now in softball. With this speedy game and this small field, things can change in a blink of an eye. So, you know, I'd like to think that they're well prepared to handle situations, and we were able to do so a little bit today.
How important was coming out of the gate with 2 runs in that first inning?
I think it set us at ease a little bit. I think it gave Logan confidence, you know, where she knew she had that lead, and if she pitches well, she can make it stick. But anytime you get up a couple runs in the first inning on a team, it feels pretty good, and it just lets you relax and play your game a little bit more, and keeps that pressure off of you.
Kat obviously gave you a little bit of breathing room in there in the bottom of the 6th with a solo home run, and she talked about how she struggled with her swing a little bit. How do you as a coach try to get the mental aspect of that through, get it through her head a little bit. It's mostly mental. Hitters hit. That's what they do. That's how they come out. They just keep swinging the bat.
Well, again, we preach every day having an approach at the plate, having a plan, and making the girls realize that this is a game of failure. I mean, to stay away from cliches, but 3 out of 10 in this game and you're in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
3 out of 10 anywhere else in the world and you're not doing very well. Right. So, we try to make them realize you're not going to hit the ball every time you're up, and every time we go into the box, our plan is that we're batting 1,000. We have to have 100% confidence, and we never get down on each other, we never yell at each other, and realize just how hard it is to hit that thing. So, and Kat stays with it, and we know her little nuances and the little things she has to do to get back on track. And after her last at bat, we reviewed those, and she was able to make some changes and park one.
Looking ahead at the season a little bit, we talked for a preview story. You lose 3 out of 4 of your infielders. You got a couple of new starters in the outfield, but they're at least more experienced. They had a little bit more time. How do you approach that as a coach? For these girls to keep trusting each other. I know they played together for a long time, so that has to help. But, you don't really know until you see them in a game situation.
Well, in our situation, every girl that's on our field right now has played in or was a part of the WPIAL championship game in the last 2 years.
Right.
The downside is 5 of them are playing in new positions.
Right.
So even though they have experience, they're not experienced where they're playing and not used to the person next to them yet and all the defensive schemes in the situation. So, for us, it's just we keep practice hard, go into our games and just keep trying to do the little things, the simple things, and hopefully we can get comfortable enough where they have a lot of confidence. Replacing what we had to replace with Matt Way and the 2 Mostowski sisters was a huge loss, not only in our defensive scheme, but we lost 3 big hitters. Yeah. So we're every day keep trying to figure out a way to find our own identity, so to speak.
Well, that takes you back to your California days. You were the small ball king there, and now do you kind of apply that more this season than you have the last couple?
Yeah, that's really what I like about the game of softball. I've always had a small ball mentality, even though I was never really a bunter. But I like that part of the game. I like the pressure defenses, and most of the time kids throw the ball around.
Looking ahead going forward, we talk about the experience you do have. How much does it help having Logan and Julianne back, as that battery to kind of lead you guys? Everything you're going to do defensively starts with that ball coming out of her hands to Julie behind the plate.
Well, those two, my goodness, I started coaching these girls when they were 7 and 8 years old, and then going into fast pitch on their own at 10U. Those two have been the battery all the way up through. They know each other well. Julianne knows Logan's spin. She knows her pitches. And I think it means a lot. And, they work well together, shake and bake.
You have a lot of new players in different positions, like you said. Has there kind of been a surprise so far? And if it's not a player, maybe a situation, but what's kind of been the surprise for you guys so far this year, early in the season?
We're really happy, actually, with Savannah Berklovich, our senior. She's been in my outfield the last couple years. Right. She was also a catcher 2 years ago with Julianne. They split a little bit of time depending on who was pitching that game. And for her to come out of the outfield and kind of volunteer to do it and take over the first base role, I give her a lot of credit, and that's a lot of senior leadership. And she's doing a nice job really stabilizing and getting it done there. So I'm very proud of her for that.
All right. Is it true or not that you are the only coach with a WPIAL baseball and softball championship?
I wish I knew that answer. I've been told. People have been doing some research to try to find that out. But I'm very proud of that fact. I mean, if I have any one personal coaching accomplishment is being the head coach of 2 sports, and a male and a female sport.
Right.
And to win WPIAL championships, and to be very proud to be a volleyball coach with my wife. If I didn't give my wife credit, she might
get into that real quick. That's what I was going to ask you. Not only do we have the dad-daughter dynamic, but you've taken the lead chair from Mandy now that we're in softball season.
Correct.
What's that dynamic like, and what's an evening in the Hartman household like? I mean, WPIAL volleyball titles, as her the head coach and you as the assistant coach. I mean, just what's it like to be a Hartman for a day?
Sometimes it's really, really fun. Sometimes it's not. As Logan said earlier, but it's not always that smooth in the house because sometimes Dad takes the game home with him, and when he does, it doesn't end well at the supper table, and my wife's not real happy about that. But we're close. I'm very fortunate to have been blessed with the 3 daughters that I have that love to play sports, and basically my wife's my best friend.
Right.
I mean, we teach, we coach, we're married. I mean, if we didn't like each other, it would be tough because we don't have a whole lot of time apart. I can tell you that much. But it's been fun because come volleyball season, she becomes the head coach, the heavy, and I step back, and vice versa, and we just play off of each other. And it's been a heck of a ride throughout the years, I have to tell you.
Well, it's been awesome covering you guys. You're very cooperative with me, and I appreciate that for everything we try to do. So, all right, we're gonna send it back to Jeremy and myself and Jose back in the studio. All right, we're back. That was a nice little interview with Coach Hartman and Kat Barch and Logan Hartman. Thank you guys for helping us out and taking part in that. But yeah, that kind of wraps up softball. I mean, I tell you what, after sitting through the Monessen Charleroi baseball game today, I got to say, I love baseball. I'm a baseball guy, but I will cover softball every time before baseball. Nice hour-and-a-half games at the most. And
I was there for like 20 minutes today.
Yeah, there you go. So, but yeah, I mean, I think overall, I think there's a good chance, we're going to be heading to championship games again in the WPIAL and or, softball or in baseball. Maybe a state run. You never know. I mean, honestly, I ain't gonna lie, I didn't see Ringgold State run coming last year. Right. I mean, that's the thing about baseball. It keeps you guessing.
I think I don't even know if Ringgold saw their state run really coming. I mean, you're always optimistic and things like that, but it kind of just comes out of nowhere. You give up. You give your best every single game, but sometimes things just click for you at the right time.
And you see the banner in the gym. It's PIAA championship. Class 4A. A lot of that makes you forget that they lost the WPIAL championship game last year. And talking to a lot of coaches, I know Coach Hartman would probably say it, and Coach Roberts said it last year. The hardest thing to do is come off a WPIAL championship loss and get ready to play a state playoff game.
Right.
It's so hard mentally, physically, just to get yourself in the right mindset to do it. But Coach Roberts came up with the right formula last year, and hopefully another team of ours can do it this year.
Yeah, it's a credit to those players and those coaches, for their ability to regroup, and they knew that they had the talent. It was just a matter of there's so much talent in the state, so it was just a matter of them putting it all together at the right time, and they were able to do that, and it was pretty cool to be able to follow them that far.
And we're not forgetting about our other spring sport, track and field, of course. Looking forward to the last Monday of the month. We head out to Charleroi High School this year for the Scott Frederick Mid-Mon Track Invitational, and that's really where our track season really kicks into gear. But Bell Vernon, got a lot of kids there doing well. I know Hunter Martin, just phenomenal in the jumps and the hurdles. Grace Henderson, the same thing. Sydney Basiak,
Hannah Seitzinger as well.
Yeah, I mean they're really burning up the track. We got EF. We got pit recruit Bree Spurnack added again on the track. I know she didn't compete in Tuesdays. At least we didn't get anything reported. But Chase Watton had a good day throwing the javelin. couple of their runners had good days in the hurdles and on the track. So we're looking forward to that. I know Ringgold has struggled a little bit, but Coach McMichael, that's one thing she'll always give us her results. I think Jelani Stafford had a big day today and broke a record for California.
And he just started throwing the shot put a few weeks ago.
I was going to say, he just picked it up for the first time 3 weeks ago. So you never know. There might be another D1 offer for him there. I mean, after he committed to Youngstown State. But, you never know. He might end up on the track team there. Right. And, Monessen, always lots of talent there. I know their roster's loaded with athletes. Devin Whitlock, I know, was on the roster. I don't know if he still is. So coaches, athletes, tell your coaches, send us your results. Let's get them in the paper, and we'll definitely see all those teams. I believe all those teams at the track invitational.
Right. We always MVI is always in full force there. So
oh yeah, we bring the squad.
We do
squad goals. I mean, we're showing up there with our notebooks, backpacks, cameras.
Yeah,
we're all over. Probably 3 photographers this year.
Yeah,
me and you, maybe another writer. Fraser track too. They're doing well, so they should be in the track invitational.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. Yeah, but they're so yeah, send us those results and we'll get them in there. Yeah, so I think that was a good show.
I think it was too. Go Knights.
Yeah. But other than that, that's it. I mean,
yeah.
All
right.
We'll be around. Promise.
We're in the end game now.